welcome back to the show. The death of Tyre Nicholas in Memphis has highlighted how a traffic stop can turn deadly. Last year, over 80 people were killed by police in interactions that began as traffic stops. The question, why are traffic stops so violent, and what can be done about it, and how can you protect yourself? Our next guest actually created a guide on how to handle unlawful police stops, particularly written for young men of color in the midst of those people who are disproportionate victims of unlawful police stops. Joining us now is the author of the book, Cardiac Arrest, and brother, we haven't seen him in a minute, but glad to have him back, Royce Russell. And Royce, good to have you back, bro.
Thank you for having me. You know, this subject matter is, near and dear to my heart, because as a person of color, walking in the streets of America, I just think we need to have tools at our side and be able to empower ourselves when we're confronted and we have a negative confrontation, which really comes in the form of an unlawful police stop. How do we manage that? How do we survive that? And it's up to us to empower ourselves, not leave it to someone else. And that is critical in this analysis.
Talk to me about the video. Most of America has now seen it. Your thoughts when watching the video of Tyre Nicholas?
Well, a couple of things. One, as I reiterate in Cardiac Arrest, a tactical guide on how to handle unlawful police stops, what I realize is the saying that I say, or the motto that I say throughout the book: police are people too, right? And there's a backdrop to the story. There's some information that's out there that says that there might have been a relationship between the two parties. Clearly, these police officers were not in their right mental state. You know, as we speak about cardiac arrest and the type of police officers that you may come across that entertain illegal stops, you usually have quota cops, you usually have prejudice cops, you have power cops, and you have classes. This is an abuse of power situation. It might be some implicit bias tangled into that. It definitely has a sprinkle of classism, because if this was someone that was in a higher socioeconomic ladder, higher up on that ladder, I doubted that this would have happened that the way it did, and especially if this person was Caucasian white and not a person of color, whether African or Latino diaspora, the conduct would have been different. But this is clearly abuse of power. This is clearly a situation that realigns and resets our mindset as people of color as to how dangerous it is just walking and living life. You know, a lot is to be said about gun violence in America. Well, you have people that are in this world that have to worry about gun violence, and they have to worry about violence from those that are supposed to protect us. We know the system is broken. We know that we're past reform. We're at a point of revolution, and hopefully empowering our people, I can help to do so.
We talk about police stops, and the worst thing that you could ever see is a police stop gone deadly. We remember Sandra Bland. We remember so many other names. It's not just men, right? It's women. We've got
Right.
men and women who are turning up on the other side of dead, just put it like that, simply because not being able to handle that stop. So I want to take the time, because you wrote a book that really was passionate about dealing with this. And if any time to bring the book back up, I think it's now. It's called Cardiac Arrest. And walk us through a little bit about why you decided to write this book.
First, let me just say one thing. In the wakes of what we've seen in the news, and the wrongful death of Miss Nichols, I don't know if there's anything that in cardiac arrest would have prevented that. I want to make that clear, right? In cardiac arrest, we're given tools. We're given tools of empowerment to make sure that you can survive the interaction. However, this went way beyond any tools. He was immediately grabbed out of his car, and then the abuse began. So tips like, one, when you are being stopped by the police and you're on the road, to call someone to let them know that you're being stopped by the police. The advantage and the purpose of that is to have an ear witness, if you can't have an eyewitness, as to what is going on. That person should be quiet. That person should hear everything that's going on. In particular, that person should be listening for names, shield numbers, and you, as the person that's being detained illegally, should be giving that information. should be enunciating, all right, Officer Johnson. So then you on the other side, who's an ear witness, can understand that this person's name is Johnson, because we don't control when a body camera comes on. The police control that. We don't control if it ever comes on. We don't control whether or not the police car has a cam dash where they're videoing everything that is taking place. So we have to empower ourselves to get the information. So that is one. And you need to turn on that phone way before you actually pull over and it's stopped. So that is just one of the tips that you can use.
When you look at this, you said something that was so profound. You said that looking at the death of Tyre Nicholas, nothing that you said in your book probably would have been able to assist in a situation like that. When we look at this, we see a situation where even if I did comply, things were going to work out. But for so many people, compliance becomes that issue of tension between that person and the officer. Talk to us about the importance of compliance and how to comply.
All right. And so the first thing I want to say to your point is this, is one, is that you can't worry about what score you get on the test, especially if you haven't studied. So you have to study first, right? So you have to know these tools. You have to know what you're doing and how you're going to go about it to manage the situation. So we talk about compliance, right? One of the tools that I always speak of, and once again, this is not a guarantee, but you are empowering yourself to manage the situation. One, you should know that there is no law out there that says that a police officer has to tell you why they stopped you. So when you are having that communication and you're saying you have to tell me why you stopped me, this is illegal, you're stepping off the wrong side of the curb. They don't have to. It is a courtesy. We would want that. Why not inform me why you're stopping me? That's the humane thing to do, but it is not a right. It is a privilege, which I would profess and promote that police officers use that, right? In New York, we talk about professionalism and courtesy. And what is more courteous and professional by stopping someone? When you stop them, you tell them why they're stopped. Another thing I would say is that hostility is only going to meet hostility, right? Yes, I'm wrong. I'm upset. I'm mad. I'm irritated by the fact that this is a police officer that stopped me and I know I didn't do anything wrong. But if you come out with the hostility that we know that we should have, rightful hostility, we're going to be met with hostility. That is a true test. It never fails. I haven't seen a video yet where someone who is irritated, annoyed, rightfully by the fact that they've been stopped, express their hostility, and a police officer receives it in a way that, you know what, I can understand where you're coming from. I can empathize. I can sympathize with you. I know what's going on here in the United States. And so therefore, I'm going to de-escalate. Far too many times police participate in the escalation. So in understanding that, then you can understand the ultimate goal, which is for every action, there's a reaction. And so how do I create the situation where I'm getting information that I can present to my lawyer or to someone that can advocate on my behalf because I am suffering or I'm a victim of an illegal stop, an unlawful stop, or some type of abuse by law enforcement. And so
and I don't want to cut you off, but I want to get you.
Sure.
I want you to harp on this point here because so many times we're trying to fix it at the scene, right? And there's sometimes that I can't fix it at the scene. I just got to let it go. And like the old saying says, my day in court.
So let me speak to that. Let it go does not mean you lost, right? Let it go means that I'm going to manage this situation and I'm going to manage it and finesse this situation in such a way that you're not going to see me coming later on when that lawsuit is filed. You're not going to see me coming later on when here in New York, you got the Civilian Complaint Review Board is filing charges against you. You're not going to see it coming when Internal Affairs, hopefully, and I say hopefully in quotes, decides to investigate your misconduct. And that is because I'm retrieving information from you. I am doing things that I'm giving you an opportunity to stop the madness, because it is madness when you're victimized of it, having raised my hand, been a victim of it, right? It is madness. I'm giving you those data points to stop you from yourself, right? I'm giving you knowledge that you should collect yourself and start all over, right? Yes, I'm asking you why you stopping me. You don't have to give me that answer. We move on to the next thing. I truly tell people sometimes silence is a safe place. Silence is a safe place. If you're being stopped by the police, they're going to come to you and they're going to say a couple of things. One, we stopped you because, if you're very lucky, they'll give you that information. Two, they may just say license and registration. Right there, they're not asking you any questions. That's a great place where silence is a safe place. They're not asking you anything. You give what they want while you get information that you need. Maybe you're looking at a shield. Maybe you're looking at a badge. Maybe you made that phone call so somebody could listen in on what's going on. Maybe you're not talking, but you're listening to what someone else is saying. You know, we always, in cardiac arrest, when I do these workshops, throughout the tri-state and throughout the United States, I have this acronym that says think calm. One is to stay composed, right? Don't let the moment take over you. Stay composed so you can get the information that I need. I want you to be aware, which is the A. Know your surroundings. Yes, the officer didn't put on the body cam, but are you near a bodega? Are you near a store? Are you near a street light where cameras are on, right? We're fighting crime everywhere. We know there's cameras everywhere. Are you listening? Not listening necessarily to what they're saying for you to do, which I advise that you do to a degree, as long as it's not degrading, but to a degree. But listening to what is being said around you, who's calling who names. Listen to the radio run that might be on their body that says the reason for the stop. And thereby you don't have to ask that question. You just retain that. And I always say make a call, that's the first thing you should do as soon as it happens. That phone should be ready, up and running, so people can listen in, so you can have a witness to what's going on.
What's the biggest mistake people make out there in the field?
One is to let their frustrations get the best of them. And then let me just say this: it's right. It is a righteous frustration, but let the moment take control. And in a cardiac arrest, we're trying to empower people in our community. You take control, right? Because a white officer is stopping you, it could be because they're prejudiced, but it could be because they're classes, right? It could be because you're driving a BMW and they have to work, overtime to even think about buying that car, right? It's not always black and white skin surface, right? You can go a little bit deeper. You understand, it's at the end of the month. All right, they're writing a lot of tickets because there's quotas. It's not an excuse, but it gives you an understanding. So now you can manage what is actually going on. You can manage why you're being stopped, right? And being able to manage that should be able to have you have an advantage on how you not only perceive things, but how you react to things. And let me just tell you something. It's not all on us. It is not on us. It takes two people to dance to the music, right? It takes two people to make this happen. The police have to do their part, but we don't control them. We control us. And so this is what cardiac arrest is all about. This is what I'm about, practicing in the area of civil rights and filing these lawsuits for abuse, false arrest, false detention, false imprisonment, false conviction, wrongful death. This is what I need so we could win the war and not the battle that is happening at 6 a.m. on a dark lit night on 125th Street.
I mean, you spoke about it the most here, right? That you have to be able to navigate after that scene, after having that interaction. And nowadays, the sad part is, on the hearts and minds of so many people is, could I just survive that interaction? And I think that's the most horrible thing that we have to talk about. That there's a fear that many men and women feel that I'm being stopped, but could this be the last stop of my life?
And you say that, and that's why we created, as a lawyer, words matter. Words mean something. They always have and they always will. So the book is not called Cardiac Arrest by Happenstance. You just said what it is. It ultimately defines. It is about death, right? It is about that feeling of your heart racing. It's about that blood pumping, the sweating in the palms. It's about you envisioning whether or not I'm gonna get home tonight. It is about you envisioning your first basket, your first date, your first kiss, because You're in this situation and you don't know if it's going to go right. That's the cardiac arrest part of it, the physical overwhelming ailments that happen when you stop illegally. And then the arrest part in and of itself is that you need to understand that you will probably not control whether or not you'll be arrested or not. That is not the fetus. That is a pure understanding. That is a pure understanding that that person on the outside that's standing in your car, that person is going to make the determination whether or not your process, that means go through the system, fingerprinted, stay overnight, whether you're going to receive a ticket or whether they're going to let you go. They have that power. And in rare circumstances, can you change that power? But you have the power to ensure that you get the information that you not only can live another day, literally, figuratively, in reference to the law, and that you can get some type of redress because you were victimized by an unlawful stop.
Yeah, I got about less than a minute here, but can you give me a quick determination between being arrested and being run through the system?
Okay, so sometimes what happens is that you can have a false detention. That means, and I just want to make it clear, everybody understands, we're playing with semantics here, right? A police stop me, right? I know that I can't leave, right? And that is tantamount to being arrested, whether in handcuffs or not. When they put their hand on your chest and they say, hold it, young fella, stay right here. We just want to check something. In my brain, just a kid from the Bronx, from the projects of St. Mary's, that means that you under arrest, you are stopped. But technically, what arrest means is that you're actually in handcuffs, you're actually brought to the precinct, right? And what process means that they're taking your fingerprints. Now, if you're detained, what they may do is ask for your identification and then put it through their portal while you are outside at the scene. That to them is technically not an arrest. To me, if my liberty is halted, if my liberty is stopped, then you are arresting me. Whether you put the handcuffs on me literally versus figuratively, what you're saying is don't leave because you can't leave. And when you ask, can you leave? You're told, hold on 1 minute. And then we have a problem. And that speaks to one of the things that kind of slides its way into this conversation. We talk about having identification on you, right? And we talk about leaving the house with it. And there are times that sometimes you will leave the house without it. It happens. It happened to me the other day. I wound up leaving my wallet in another jacket as I was driving. But I tell everyone, take a picture of your identification. Rarely do you leave your wallet and your phone at home. And I think that's important because at least you have some data point of who you are versus being at the discretion of the police officer who then decides, well, now I'm going to take you in and I'm going to find out who you are.
Yeah. Well, Royce, we got to leave it there, man. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate the conversation, much needed. And it really gives us some context, especially not in the case pretty much with Tyre Nicholas, because as you said, I don't think anything that you train, that you teach, that we know to do would have prevented what these jerks wanted to do. And the jerks real nice for television. But I got to keep my job, so I'm not gonna like I need to say. But thank you for joining us, brother.
And I appreciate you having me. And because I want to keep on coming back, I'm not going to say the words that you want to say.
Yeah,
we just going to think it.
We're going to think it and we know it, right?
That's right.
That's right.
Peace and blessings. Thank you for having me.
Peace and blessings.